Hello everybody, welcome to the class. Yes, in last class, we have finished this topic of this chapter, the changing fortunes of town. Let me just recap with this. In this chapter, you are learning about the development of towns. If towns will be there, then trade will be developed. If trade will be there, then craft person will also develop. So this is all a chain sequence wise it's happening. Towns develop, they need more and more product. If products will be there, they need craft person to make this product. And changing is a rule of nature. So changing fortune of town, in that you learn that all the towns which gain importance in that medieval period, they were not at the same. Some gain more importance, some lose their importance. In this way all these different towns develop. And in closer look, we are taking these three, they've given these three towns, town, traders and craft persons. So how these three towns got importance, what were their situation in medieval period, for which they were very famous, for which they developed, and what were the main purpose behind them. So let us understand. First thing is Hampi. First town is Hampi. And student, please keep in mind that these were the main topic. Whatever the main topics you learn in that main part of the chapter, the same you will compare here in closer look. The heading of the first town is the architectural splendor of Hampi. Now you understand from the heading that Hampi is a town. Hampi was a town in medieval period. Now at present it has no more. Only just last remains, only dead remains would be there deep inside. Otherwise Hampi is not existing. But at that time medieval period it was a splendid town. And it was very famous for its architectural work. Hampi is located in the Krishna Tungabhadra basin, which formed the nucleus of Vijayanagar Empire. Right? Vijayanagar Empire was most famous empire in medieval period, founded in 1336. And Hampi was, we can say, located in Krishna Tungabhadra basin. The magnificent ruins at Hampi reveals a well fortified city. As I told you, only dead remains are only there. So the magnificent ruins, they are telling us the story of well fortified city. No mortar or cementing agent was used in the construction of these walls. Right? These well fortified cities, if you see the walls, you will find these all are the just remains of that town, what subdues of that town. But from that also you can find that they have not used any kind of mortars or cement to construct the walls. The technique followed was to wedge them together by interlocking. Right? They were interlocking all these wedges, all these bricks, and they were making very firm walls. The architecture of Hampi was distinctive. Special kind of architecture was developed at that time. The building in the royal complex had splendid arches, domes, and pillared halls with niches for holding sculptures. Now you can imagine how such a splendid halls, and it has so many pillars with the niches for holding sculptures, and royal complex. You must have seen in that many South Indian movies, you must seen these kind of huge palaces or temples. So these are this kind of example of this type of construction style. They also had well planned orchards and pleasure garden with sculpture motifs such as the lotus and corbels. In its heyday means a very golden time, in the 15th 16th century, Hampi bustled with commercial and cultural activities. It was not only just architectural, but because of its architectural work, so many commercial and cultural activities developed here. Muslim merchants, chetis, and agents of European traders such as the Portuguese thronged the market of Hampi. Means here in the golden period of Hampi, we can say around 15th 16th century, Hampi was bustling with the so many different kind of trading activities. Businesses were also developed here. Different kinds of merchants, traders were also thrown here for their business activities. Amongst them, European traders were there, Portuguese were also there, and they also came here to buy goods from here and sell in their country to earn huge profit. Temples were the hub of cultural activities. From all this second chapter, you are learning that temples in medieval period, temples were the main centers of all the cultural activities in Devadasis, temple dancers. At that time, um, not so many entertainment things were there, so people used to have this type of temple dancers in the temples, and they were having performance of these dancers, and they were also performing in front of that deity. So Devadasi, here it is also Hindi word. Temple dancers perform before the deity, royalty and masses in the many pillared halls in the Virupaksha, a form of Shiva temple. It is just an example, so they give a name like this. But in most of the South Indian temples, you can see that this type of culture was developed. That in front of that deity, Devadasis, temple dancers, they perform their art, and in that time their emperor also, their mass means in the front of people also they were performing as a devotion. The Mahanavami festival, known today as the Navratri in the south, was one of the most important festivals celebrated at Hampi. You can underline this. Navratri is the most important festival at present also, but at that time especially they were celebrating Mahanavami festival. Archaeologists have found the Mahanavami platform where the king received guests and accepted tribute from subordinate chiefs. So this was the main festival at that time. So king also invite different guests to this platform. Subordinates were appointed for different works, so they were also giving tribute to the king. So these all activities they perform on this Mahanavami festivals platform. From here, he also watched the dance and music performances as well as wrestling bouts. So this type of different activities. As I told you that at that time, like we are having so many different kind of entertainment things, movies, cinemas, YouTube channels and all. But at that time, this type of things were not there. So people were getting entertainment like this, dance performance, music performance, wrestling. These were the things they used to do. Gradually, what happened with Hampi? Hampi fell into ruin following the defeat of Vijayanagar in 1565 by the Deccani Sultans. Gradually, everything which is going upside, it will gradually go down also. So at Hampi also in 15th, 16th century, it developed very nicely. It was considered as a golden period from 13th, 14th, 15th century. But gradually at the end of Vijayanagar, defeat of Vijayanagar ruler, defeated by Deccani Sultans, the rulers of Golconda, Bijapur, Ahmednagar, Berar and Bidar, Hampi lost its importance and gradually it shrank into ruins only. Right? So this was the story of Hampi. Here one more important things about the Hampi we have not discussed. Let us see. This is how a Portuguese traveler, Domingo Pez, describe Hampi in the 16th century. As it is given here that European traders also started coming here in Hampi. So what he described in his book, at the entrance of the gate where those pass who come from Goa, this king has made within it a very strong city, fortified with walls and towers. These walls are not like those of other cities, but are made of very strong masonry, such as would be found in a few other parts, and inside very beautiful rows of building made after their manners with flat roofs. So this is just a description of that entrance. How was the entrance of Hampi from Goa? If any European travelers, if they are coming through sea route, so they have to come from Goa to Hampi, and how was the entrance? It described here. During their rule, the Vijayanagar rulers took keen interest in building tanks and canals. The Anantaraj Sagar tank was built with the 1.37 kilometer long earthen dam across the Maldevi river. Krishnadevaraya built a huge stone embankment between two hills to create a massive lake near Vijayanagar, from which water was carried through aqueduct and channels to irrigate field and gardens. So this was the description of architectural splendor architecture work of Hampi. So we can just summarize that Hampi developed as a masonry craft, as a architecture work, and after Vijayanagara defeated, then it lost its importance and it um, reduced into just ruins. Okay, I hope I make it clear to you. Still, if you are having any doubt, we will discuss. Okay. The second important city, it is of our Gujarat, Surat. The gateway to the west, Surat. Surat in Gujarat was the emporium of West. Now, what is the emporium? You must have noticed in many sign boards, shop boards, they have written emporium, right? What is the meaning of emporium? A place where goods from diverse production centers are bought and sold, right? Sari emporiums or dress emporiums. So they are bringing all different varieties of that product and sell at one center, that is called emporium. Surat in Gujarat was the emporium of the western trade during the Mughal period. Right, now you understand that Mughal period, at the time of Mughal period, Surat developed very nicely. Along with Kembe, present day Khambat. Khambat is also very famous for its different varieties of goods. And somewhat later, Ahmedabad. Surat was the gateway for trade with West Asia via the Gulf of Hormuz. Surat has also been called the gate to Mecca because many pilgrim ships set sail from here. Right? You can, children, you can underline this both the things. Gateway to the west. Suppose from India, from this subcontinent, if anybody want to go to the west, then they have to go from Surat only, because at that time only this port was opened through waterways. They can move to the western countries. And for another place, Mecca, for Muslims, for Islamic followers, Makkah, Medina is a very holy places. So if they want to go for pilgrim, then they have to take shape from here only. So it was also considered as a gate to Mecca. Hope children, both the things clear to you. Now the main parts of the things why Surat got lots of importance in medieval period. And at present also Surat is very famous. The city was cosmopolitan. Cosmopolitan means where people from the different creed, it is not a particular creed or community people are living. Cosmopolitan, and people of all castes and creeds lived there. In the 17th century, the Portuguese, Dutch and English had their factories and warehouses at Surat. In next class, when you will start learning about that how Britishers started coming, so you will learn that Surat was their main center, because from western country they came. So as I told you that was only a one route at that time. Then they develop another route at Bengal also, but first route was developed in Surat. So excuse me. So all these European traders, Portuguese, Dutch, English, they established their factories at Surat. According to the English chronicler Ovington, who wrote an account of the port in 1689, an average 100 ships of different countries. Now you can imagine at that time in medieval period where so many facilities were not there, at that time also Surat was bustling with the huge trade activities. On an average, 100 ships of different countries could be found anchored. Anchored means they parked there at the port at any given time. So these things showing that Surat was bustling with the lots of trading and commercial activities. There are also several retail and wholesale shops selling cotton textile. As I earlier told you, Surat was very famous for its textiles, especially zari lace border. It will come here. The textiles of Surat were famous for their gold lace borders and had a market in West Asia, Africa and Europe. The state built numerous rest houses to take care of the needs of the people from all over the world who came to the city. No doubt when now people started coming to Surat for trade purpose, so other activities will also get chance food, water, they need lodging, boarding, all these things. So there were so many rest houses were also constructed. So all these people, those who were engaged in this activity, they got lots of employment here. There were magnificent buildings and innumerable pleasure park. The Kathiawadi Seth or Mahajans, money changers. Mahajans means those who are dealing with for money. Had huge banking houses at Surat because for trade they need money. So they were having their banking houses. People were taking loan, borrowing money and putting their money on deposits. It is noteworthy that the Surat Hundis, now Hundi is also another term, I will explain you, were honored in the far off market of Cairo in Egypt, Basra in Iraq, and Antwerp in Belgium. So Hundi, what is Hundi? Hundi is a written documents. Here, see, Hundi is a note recording a deposit made by a person. Suppose if I am giving you some amount, then I will write a letter. I will write that this amount I have given to you and we both will sign. So it is considered the amount deposited can be claimed in another place by presenting the record of the deposit. You can understand it like present a check. Suppose I have got a check that I have to take this money. Then I give this check to some other person that person will take money from that first person. So that type of work in that time Hundis were doing. So hope you understand. Hundi is a written document that this person owed this money to this person. However, Surat began to decline towards the end of the 17th century. This was because of many factors. There were so many factors. Like in Hampi's case, you will learn that as Vijayanagara Empire declined, so people moved their interest to another town. Like here in the Surat case also, this was because of many factors. The loss of market and productivity because of the decline of Mughal Empire, control of the sea routes by the Portuguese, and competitions from Bombay, present day Mumbai, where the English East India Company shifted its headquarters in 1668. So till 16th century, Surat was also bustling very nicely, but in the meantime, when Britishers shifted its main center to Bombay, Bengal, Orissa and these places, so Surat lost its importance. But after independence, Indian government and especially Gujarat government has worked much behind it, and Surat again started bustling with the commercial activities, and at present also Surat is considered as the main commercial centers for not only for textiles but for diamond business also, for some kind of sweets also. So Surat is at present also Surat is a big commercial center. Okay. Now the last one is Machilipatnam, fishing in troubled water. So now you hope you understand from this title, right? So children, previously also I told you that always give importance to the title. And you remember, you please recall when you used to do this type of exercise that paragraphs were given to you or some sentences were given to you and you were asked to give a proper title. From title, we 70% things we can easily understand what will be there. Here also, fishing in troubled water. So obviously, Machilipatnam must be famous for its fishing activities, and something had happened with the troubled water and something had happened with the Machilipatnam. So let's see what was there. The town of Machilipatnam or Machilipatnam, popularly known as Machilipatnam, but some people used to tell it Machilipatnam also, literally fish port town. Okay, lay on the delta of the Krishna river. In the 17th century, it was center of intense activity. Both the Dutch and English East India companies attempted to control Machilipatnam as it became the most important port on the Andhra coast. The fort at the Machilipatnam was built by the Dutch. So gradually when European traders, they started coming here and they developed here, so they started controlling territories, controlling part. So both Dutch and English, they wanted to control Machilipatnam because of its important port. so they can easily transport their goods to their country. The Qutub Shahi rulers of Golconda imposed royal monopolies of the sale of textiles, spices, and other items to prevent the trade passing completely into the hands of the various East India Company, because they were very strong rulers and they did not want that European companies they take advantages from our country. So they put restrictions and passings and all completely they keep in their hands. Obviously, Europeans were more powerful. Fierce competitions among the various trading groups, the Golconda nobles, Persian merchants, Telugu Komati Chetis, and European traders, made the city populous and prosperous. No doubt there was cutthroat competition like situation was there. So all the peoples, not only that native kings and native people wanted to control, but European traders also wanted to control. So it make it more prosperous and populous. Populous means increase in population. As the Mughal began to extend their power to Golconda, their representative, the governor Mir Jumla, who was also a merchant, began to play off the Dutch and English against each other. And this type of things are also there. So Mir Jumla here is given that governor at that time, they started playing tricks between these two, Dutch and English. And in 1686-87, Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb annexed Golconda. And Aurangzeb was very bribed ruler. He took money and he gave lots of territories of Indian subcontinents. This caused the European companies to look for alternatives. It was a part of the new policy of the English East India Company that it was not enough if a port had connections with the production centers of the hinterland. Means gradually, on the other hand, when Aurangzeb took the control of Machilipatnam, at that time, coincidentally, East India Company was also developing. He bribed Aurangzeb for territories, and at the one hand, they were developing. East India Company was developing, so it was not only enough for having just control over the port. The new company trade centers, it was felt, should combine political, administrative, and commercial role. So they wanted such center that which have not only the port, but it should political, administrative wise also it should strong. As the company traders moved to Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras, Machilipatnam lost both its merchants and prosperity. So now the total trade shifted to Bombay, Calcutta, Madras. So people also shifted there. So gradually Machilipatnam lost its glam and declined in the course of the 18th century, being today nothing more than the dilapidated little town. Machilipatnam is still existing, but it is very small town, very rural area, outskirts near the Andhra Pradesh. So, hope children you understand about this development and decline of these three example. One thing here we just missed out, a poor fisherman town. Actually, Machilipatnam before European traders they started trading and all. Machilipatnam was most famous for its fishing activity. This is the description of Machilipatnam by William Mathwold, a factor of the English East India Company in 1602. This is the chief port of Golconda where the right worshipful East India Company have their agent. It is a small town but populous, unwalled, hill-built and worse situated. Actually, the situation where it was situated, the situation was not so good that all the things can be easily brought and developed here. Within all the spring and brackish. It was first poor fisher town. Afterwards, the convenience of the road, a place where ship can anchor, made it a residence for the merchant and so continued since our and the Dutch nation frequented this coast. So how it was situated, developed, here it is given. Here the one word you learn here, factor. Factors is British officers in charge of trading activities. So this is how this three cities you learn. Now, new towns and traders. Obviously, when old towns, old centers are declining, so development of new towns happen. In the 16th century, 16th, 17th centuries, European countries were searching for spices and textiles, which had become popular both in Europe and West Asia. The English, Dutch, and French formed East India companies in order to extend their commercial activities. Now we are talking about that end of the medieval period when Britishers started coming as a East India Company. And not only East India Company but other European companies like Dutch, French, they also wanted some centers in India. Initially, great Indian traders like Mullah Abdul Ghaffar and Virji Vora, who owned a large number of ships, competed with them because they were strong traders. They wanted to keep safe their boundaries, their trade, so they did not allow gradually. But no doubt, financially, politically, Europeans were more powerful, so they make these peoples to bow according to their wishes. However, the European company used their naval power to gain control of the sea trade and force Indian traders to work as their agent. Ultimately, the English emerged as the most successful commercial and political power in the subcontinent, and it resulted in as a ruler of Indian subcontinent. The spurt in demand for goods like textile led to a great expansion of the craft of spinning, weaving, bleaching, dyeing, etc. with more and more people. Indian textile designs became increasingly refined. However, this period also saw the decline of independent craftsperson. Because now what happened that all these trades were in the hand of European companies and they wanted more and more profit, so they want our craft person to make the designs as they wanted. They now begin to work on the system of advance. Now what is the system of advance? Like suppose I want to get some work from you, so I will give you advance money, that this 10,000 rupees you take and you make me some designs like this. So according to my wish you have to prepare designs and for that you will get money. So now they started the system of advance, which meant that they had to weave cloth which was already promised to European agent. Weavers no longer had the liberty of selling their own clothes or weaving their own patterns. Now, according to their wish, weavers cannot sell their goods, cannot make their own patterns. Means that creativity is totally stopped. They had to reproduce the designs supplied to them by the company agent. And company agents, they were also very crooked. They wanted the designs which were in great demand in their countries. So they were just repeating that type of design. So our Indian craft persons, weavers, their skills, their creativity is totally declined. The 18th century saw the rise of Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras, which are noble cities today. Crafts and commerce underwent major changes as merchants and artisans were moved into black towns established by European companies. This was the time when they started controlling territories and they were considering Indian people, craft person, artisans as a inferior. So they constructed black towns and white towns. So all this kind of artisans they shifted to the black towns. The blacks or native traders and craftspersons were confined here while the white rulers occupied the superior residence of Fort St. George in Madras. So this was the period when Britishers started controlling territories, right? I am repeating same thing again. So here they started so very sophisticated areas of the Calcuttas. They started constructing houses for the British officers. In Indian natives, craftspersons, artisans, they were shifted to the narrow, dirty, unhygienic areas were called Black Town. The story of craft and commerce in the 18th century will be taken up next year. So this is the just a beginning of East India companies and their ruling in our country. How was the situation that you will continue learn in next year also, because next year is all about the British history in India, British story of India, so that you will learn. Here you can see the scene of Calcutta. Here people, Indian people, native people, they are just working as a worker. Sorry, this is the scene of Bombay Street, early 19th century. There was one more scene here, they have shown of Calcutta also. So children, hope this 3 example and new traders, new development make you clear all about the chapter, all about the things what you have to learn in this chapter. Uh, in short, if we take it as like this, that why towns are important because of traders. Which type of traders would be there? Those who are doing business of different product. So for product they need craft person. So if traders are there, towns will be there because they need to settle, they need to develop their activities. So in this way towns develop, right? Some towns develop, so some towns will decline. So in this way, this chapter is all about the development, what rulers are doing. Medieval period, in medieval period, at that time, at particular time, which ruler was doing which activity, how they develop, how they got the territories of different part, that you learn. Okay, in next class we will do the question answers and other important topics. If it will be there, then I will discuss with you, and textual exercise we will discuss. Still, if you are having any doubt in any of that topic, we will discuss in live class, and even you can tell me in comment box also. Till that time, stay connected, keep learning children. Have a fantastic day. Goodbye.